It is Thanksgiving week here for the Make a Difference podcast. Always a big week in the college hoops world, but Phil, I got to ask right off the bat, hit me with it. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Oh, it has to be the turkey. I could go turkey.
The centerpiece.
I could go turkey a couple days in a row and then get my naps in because of all the ingredients in turkey. But that's where I go.
Yeah, I would say the days after, right? The turkey sandwiches, just on some bread with some mayo, and that to me is that's almost the real prize of Thanksgiving is that leftover turkey.
You just keep an eye on everybody and say, you know what, isn't that your second or third helping? Can we back off just a little bit?
Is that you, or are you kind of you're the watchdog at the Thanksgiving table?
Well, really, Thanksgiving is the holiday during the year that you give up for college basketball.
Oh, yeah.
You really do. It's a blessing, obviously, to play. It's a blessing to coach. But you do give up family time. You give up friend time. And then, just because we're full of facts here, that the biggest night in the bar industry is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
So tonight's activities will be pretty ferocious all throughout the bar industry. Everybody be safe out there if that's what you do to indulge.
Well, some good high college hoops on there as well.
If I could speak to the college players and the college coaches and the college fans, even though you're giving up a lot, giving up family time, you're giving up friend time. It is a blessing to be involved in this great game. So don't take it for granted. Every chance you get, make sure that you cherish all of these opportunities. And then I would follow up with a question for you, because you're coming from the high school sports ranks and you've done unbelievable work all throughout Pennsylvania. Are there still those tremendous high school rivalry games on Thanksgiving, or have they gone the way of the Buffalo?
Well, I mean, are you saying for hoops or for football? I mean,
no,
football.
I'm talking about the football, because I'm going to get back when we talk our basketball segment. I think it's an exciting time this weekend for grade schools and high school teams. But I just was struck when I was writing my notes, those unbelievable games. The people in Philadelphia would remember Frankfurt and North Catholic, and there would be 10,000 people at a high school football game. Lincoln and Judge, and I remember years where St. Joe's Prep and Malvern Prep tried to play at Villanova Stadium on Thanksgiving. Do those games still exist, or because of the state playoff situation, have they gone away?
I was going to say, I think because of the schedule by Thanksgiving, teams are either playing for a state semifinal or they're at home watching at that point of the year. My mind immediately went to just like some of the hoops, like turkey tournaments and stuff like that were always a lot of fun, because you get to see teams from all over the place and you get to see some real players just outside of the specific area I had been covering. But I know what you're talking about. Some of those classic games, I mean, that, giving everybody the opportunity to go out there around Thanksgiving and check out some of those awesome rivalries is always fantastic. But I think now, because of the way the season's set up, I mean, if you're playing the day after Thanksgiving, that means you're scratching and clawing for a state championship. So that's obviously pretty worthy, I would say, consolation prize, if you ask me.
For sure. But some things are not meant to last forever. That's one that I wish had last forever. Those high school traditional rivalry games, Thanksgiving morning, alumni meeting, and crosstown rivalries. But I get it. State championships are forever, and hopefully someday we'll bring those rivalries back.
We have an awesome guest ready to join us in just a moment. But before we get that, we do, of course, have to take care of the Martelli Minute.
We do have to take care of the Martelli Minute, and I would be remiss if I didn't start it with thankfulness. There are certainly opportunities. This podcast, I'm thankful for. Health, I'm thankful for. And for those that are families and individuals that are struggling with their health, be assured of our prayers here from Make a Difference. I'm certainly thankful for the opportunities that have arisen since I came home and, quote unquote, as you said last week, retired. And I'm certainly thankful for the joy of family. In terms of basketball, let's before we do the Martelli Minute, those high school and grade school teams that are scrimmaging and starting turkey tip-offs, play with joy. Everybody out there, embrace it and play with joy. And those Martelli Minute, sponsored by Status Solutions, found on Instagram. You taught me this last week. Found on Instagram every morning, Phil_Martelli. Every morning, no later than 7:30, it goes out. Status Solutions Network is committed to making a difference by providing Alicia's Law compliance safety technology to schools through a grant of use, ensuring that financial barriers never stand between students and proper safety. Each community has the power to create real change. Learn more at statussolutions.com. And that's going to be apropos with our guest, who is very involved in education in the Philadelphia school districts. Here they are. Small things, details, done well, allow for great deeds to be accomplished. Competition is a privilege. Make the most of it by pushing yourself to your limits, so that when the competition ends, you will have rightly earned self-respect. No greater respect than that. And the last one, growth often comes when you willingly accept the opportunity to explore the unknown. Or another version of that, you don't know what you don't know and never will unless you take a chance. Explore the unknown.
Another fantastic Martelli Minute. You can find that, of course, Phil_Martelli on Instagram. You're getting it. You're getting the hang of it. You're coming along with this social media thing.
I'm able to talk. So before we bring on our guest, the background it chilled me. All that he is doing to make a difference. So if I could, for a moment, before we introduce and bring in Isaiah Thomas, a hero, an ordinary person doing extraordinary things that directly impact others, many times for people that they will never meet. Isaiah Thomas is a community hero, councilman by day, basketball coach by night, community activist and hero always, a Penn State grad, Lincoln University, master's in education. A community leader was quoted as stating this about Isaiah Thomas: he works for all of the people of Philadelphia with the hope of improving basic quality of life. This is a really big deal to have Councilman Isaiah Thomas, basketball coach Isaiah Thomas, community hero Isaiah Thomas joining Make a Difference.
I'll tell you what, that is one heck of an intro. So without further ado, let's welcome him on. Isaiah, how you doing today?
Well, I'm doing much better after that introduction, especially from a Philly legend. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you for the amazing introduction. It's an honor to be here with you all.
So Isaiah, I want to start with this idea and not bio, but your journey, right? So the master's in education at Lincoln leads to City Hall, leads to, and I'll just read some of these: president of the Coaches Association in the pub, council leadership, education committee, vice chair, children and youth committee. That's working for the quality of other people. So take us, how did you end up in City Hall?
So that's a good question. I actually, born and raised in the city of Philadelphia, grew up playing, high school basketball, went to college at Penn State Abington, played a little basketball there as well too. And for me, my journey was one that really wasn't your traditional path as it relates to public service. I actually majored in undergrad in psychological and social science. And like you said, my master's degree is in education. And in my mind, I thought I was going to be a teacher, a coach, an athletic director, administrator. And I did that for a good amount of time. What happened was, while I was working part-time for, at the time, State Representative Tony Payton, the battery kind of got put in my back to run for office, because what happened was we seen a governor slash funding for public education, the biggest cut that we've seen in the history of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, occurred prior to 2010. And that to me was just a sign and the signal for me to get a little more politically engaged and get a little more politically involved. So the reality is that I actually started this journey in 2010, and I wasn't sworn in the city council until 2020. So I tell young people all the time that when you have goals and you have things that you're trying to accomplish, it's a journey. And throughout the course of your journey, just because you don't get the desired outcome don't mean you fail. The perception of progress is very different to everybody. And for me, my journey was a long one as it relates to how I got to city council, but I'm super excited to be here. I'm happy to serve. And I think one of the best parts about the job is that I can still coach high school basketball. So like you said, I'm still the president of the Coaches Association for the Public League. I actually sit on the board for PIAA District 12, which is the governing body for amateur high school athletics for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And I'm able to use those lived experiences to really dictate how I advocate and what I vote for as a member of city council. It's easy to come to City Hall every day and kind of distance yourself from the problems that everyday Philadelphians face. But when I leave City Hall, which is where I am right now, I often go to Kensington, which is one of the most troubled neighborhoods in the city of Philadelphia, where I do coach and work with young people on a consistent basis. So it's a fine balance that I have that puts me in a position to advocate, fight for, and govern the city of Philadelphia. But I'm always laser sharp focused on our children and what we can do to improve the quality of life and experiences that they have growing up in the city of Philadelphia.
Making a difference. So you brought out some of this, but if I was to say to you, Isaiah, what's the biggest challenge in our city, and how do you combat those day-to-day challenges?
Yeah, I think most people would say the biggest challenge in the city is the crime and the gun violence. And, I've always pushed back against that. I always looked at crime and gun violence as a symptom of other problems. And so for me, I think the biggest problem we have right now in our city is poverty. And I think our poverty is driven by the lack of opportunity for quality education. So if I had to dig to the root problem is education. We have to do something around what it means to grow up in the city of Philadelphia, have access to quality schools, quality teachers and mentors, and education that could put you on a trajectory to either go directly into the workforce or transition into some level of higher academia. Once you fix the education issue, you then will directly fix the poverty issue, right? Education and poverty are directly correlated to one another. And when you look at how we perform as it relates to our literacy rate, our dropout rate, and other things that show what you're doing academically, you'll see that we don't do well at all. And because we don't do well as it relates to education, the direct cause of that is that you have large issues surrounding poverty. Philadelphia is the poorest big city in the entire country. And there are a number of reasons why that's the case, but you can't make a legit argument about any reason that's the case when you don't have quality schools and a quality academic experience. And naturally, when you look at the crime and the violence, and we've done a lot better in 2024 with the crime and the violence than what we've done in years past, especially coming out of the pandemic. But the reality is that those problems are always going to exist when you have issues related to crime and poverty, right? Very rarely will somebody commit a crime if they have a quality job, if they're able to provide a quality living for themselves and their family. And when we talk about poverty in the city of Philadelphia, one of the reasons why I tied to education is because Philadelphia is the city of the working poor. When I talk about the fact that we're the poorest big city in the entire country, a lot of people just assume that those folks are unemployed. The reality is that the majority of the people who live in poverty are folks who actually do have a job. Over 70% of the people who live in poverty in the city of Philadelphia that are actual adults that are eligible to work do have a job. So the problem is much more complex than this idea of people just being lazy and people not wanting to work. That's not the case here in the city of Philadelphia, but we have a lot of work to do to put us in a position to ensure that families can provide a living for themselves and their loved ones while only having one job. Currently, that's not the case, and we have a lot of work to do in order to change that.
Isaiah, you really touched on it there, and I think it's something that is so difficult to, I think, really to explain to so many people what the root cause is of so many issues. People look at surface level solutions so often when it comes to gun violence in the city of Philadelphia, when it comes to poverty in the city of Philadelphia, but you really hit the nail on the head there. It starts with education, right? And it's a thing that takes years and years and years to see positive change enacted. And when you only have so much time in office, so much time to gain influence, how can you really guide people and show people like, this is the investment we need to make now, and in 10, 15, 20 years you will see the fruits of your labor?
I mean, let's use basketball terminology since I'm sitting with a coaching legend here in the city of Philadelphia. When you're down 20 points, second quarter, third quarter, and you still see an opportunity to win the game, back in the day, they used to have Rock and Jock basketball MTV where you could have a 25-point shot, or, I don't remember exactly how much it is, but when you're coaching quality basketball and it's not Rock and Jock or anything like that, what do you tell your team? You tell your team one possession at a time, right? You chip away at it, right? And if you chip away at it and you stay the course, right, a 20-point lead goes down to 12. And then by the end of that third quarter, the goal is to do what? Get it to single digits. And now you're going into the fourth quarter and you want to give yourself a shot to be able to win that game in the fourth quarter. Politics is the same concept. Education is like being down 20 right now. And what we're trying to do is chip away. And we're starting with the facilities crisis. Right now in the city of Philadelphia, a lot of people know that we have issues related to mold, asbestos, and other things as it relates to our buildings specifically. So our biggest goal right now is to figure out what can we do about the facilities crisis here in the city of Philadelphia. We chipped away to get to this point because we were able to win a lawsuit that put us in a position to get new money from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because public education across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, not just in the city of Philadelphia, have been severely underfunded to the point where as though the Commonwealth was sued and the schools actually won in court. So in the 2024 budget, Harrisburg put up $232 million in new revenue for the city of Philadelphia. And that was a step in the right direction. We're now looking to have a facilities plan, which I'm a part of, working with the mayor and the school district to address the mold, asbestos, and things of that capacity. So that's a small step in the right direction. We recently negotiated contracts, and we were happy to advocate for some of the workers in the schools last year to pay people a little better wage as it relates to our climate staff and folks who really make our schools go, not just the teachers and the administrators. So again, that was another step in the right direction. So we're chipping away. We're doing a little bit better as we go along. We're staying the course. From the people in the sports world, you'll see that we're making significant investment in spaces like Northeast, which is a super site for a lot of our different spring and fall athletic activities. We're making investment in other facilities to put us in a position like Frankfurt High School, to put us in a position to be able to make sure that our young people have the same experiences that young people all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania have, not just as it relates to what happens in the traditional brick and mortar academic setting, but also what happens after school for extracurricular activities as well as the summertime. So we're doing our due diligence. It's going to be a long journey, but I anticipate using, again, the basketball analogy. By the time we're down to those 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you will not see the 20-point blowout that you've seen in the first and second. I mean, you've seen in the second and third quarter using the basketball analogy.
I need to build on that one right there. So your basketball knowledge, I'm going to blend your political world and your basketball knowledge. So Isaiah, come on, give me an old timer here. Give me your gift here. How do you persuade the referees? You got a gift here now. You must use that. How are you using your political clout with these referees now? Come on now, talk to me.
I honestly, coach, is literally the opposite. I think for me, especially in Philly, I since I became a member of City. When I was young, I was very bad with the referees, and I think most coaches will say that, right?
Yes,
when you're
sir.
young, you
Yes,
tend
sir.
to think
Say it
every
again.
game is
Say
the
that
championship, and so I struggled a little bit in my 20s when I first started coaching. I started coaching high school basketball when I was 25 years old. I'm 40 now, so I've been at it for 15 years, and that's a really long journey to have one job and one level and one position and be able to build a program that we're really proud of. At this juncture of things, I try to give myself and the coaches rules, specifically as it relates to referees. Look, basketball is a very emotional game, not just for the players, but for the coaches as well. And I talk to people all the time that basketball is very different than football or baseball or some of the other sports where you're not just spread out physically, but you're so far removed from the audience that when something happens, your emotions are not on display for the world to see like they are in basketball. So I have to have a fine balance of being a council member at all times, while simultaneously being the coach, because in the moment, I often forget that I'm a member of city council, and I do have these quarrels and this tension with referees like any other coach. But what I've tried to do is put myself in a position to have a good supporting staff as it relates to assistant coaches, completely disconnect myself from the referees when the season is over, and assure that we operate to the standard that is reflective of not just, what I would how I would carry myself as a member of city council, but also, most importantly, the standard that the school, Sankofa Freedom Academy, abides by, as well as those stakeholders there. So I know a lot of folks might think that because I'm a member of city council, the referees and the whistles might go my way. It's literally been the opposite. Sometimes I wonder, I'm like, what vote did I take to piss this referee off? Because some of these things just be blatant. But that's the journey.
You never threaten them with the parking authority or anything. Like, you're all good.
Oh, I mean, not at all. No threats at all. The only thing I'll threaten them with is some angry language and words like any other referee with. You got to be kidding me. Unbelievable. You can't make this stuff up. And I will say this, Coach. I've gotten significantly less technical fouls since I've become a member of city council since prior to. So I do pat myself on the back for that.
I'm going to raise my hand and so when I was a head high school coach in the Catholic League, I was 23 years old. My first year, 7 technical fouls, including getting thrown out of a game.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. My next 7 years at Bishop Kenrick, 1 technical foul over the 7 years. You are absolutely right. We get dumber and we get less emotional, and we become better coaches because of that.
Yep. 100% agree. And, when you're younger, you again, your emotions are on your sleeve, but as you get older and a little more mature, you understand that when you step into that emotional space, your children subconsciously follow. And very rarely do you find players who continue to play well while on an emotional roller coaster. So at the end of the day, you learn that it's best just to kind of stay even keel when unfortunate situations present themselves, because strategically, that's your best way to win. Now, once you know the game is over and you don't got a chance of winning, that's a different conversation.
I'm a huge believer in the city. I'm a huge believer in the area. And I often say to people, because they portray us a certain way outside of the area, outside of the city, I often have made a statement that don't come in here and talk about us. Right? Don't do that. We can talk about each other, because we know at the greatest times of needs, we would give each other the shirts off our back.
Absolutely.
You brought that up a little bit. Can you expand on the idea of the community-based organizations who are truly going to make a difference in our schools, in our community, and in our city?
I think in this era of social media, what I often find is that people gravitate towards negative information a lot more than what I've seen in any other time in my life. And why you see such negative narratives around the city of Philadelphia is because bad news travels way more than good news. We have so many phenomenal organizations across the city of Philadelphia that do so much work in so many different categories. And it's not just about crime and violence. You got nonprofit organizations who do work around gaming, around job readiness, around academic support. And of course, since we're in this space with the legendary coach, around athletics. The recently built 6-man center is one of my favorite stories to brag about, because it's one of the most amazing facilities in the entire region, and the space is open to the community. You have so many different Pop Warner and community-based, sports-based organizations that provide free programming to young people all across the city of Philadelphia. And even myself, for over a decade now, long before I was a member of city council, I too did a free camp every year. We had 175 kids come to our camp this summer. And for us to make sure that these young people have free programming at the end of the summer, when most children who go to public schools, their summer camp is over, but school hasn't started yet, it's imperative that we fill that void to make sure young people have positive activities and positive mentors. So that is the core of the city of Philadelphia. In all pockets and all walks across the city, you'll see great people. Some of them have actual organizations, and some of them just do it out of love, who's just giving back and most especially this time of year, right? The holidays can be a tough time, not just for those who are in need, but also for those who've lost loved ones. A lot of times people don't understand what others are going through during this time. And this is when I see the best of the city of Philadelphia. We recently had a turkey giveaway where we gave away over 1,000 meals to families across the city of Philadelphia. And that's just my office. We're in the sports space. We know Tyrese Maxey did over 2,000 meals this weekend. And so many other people during this time of year use this as a chance, not just to step up to give back to those in need, but also to help fill voids for people who've lost loved ones who are suffering and mourning during the holiday, to try to use this time as a pick you up. So this is my favorite time to be in the city of Philadelphia. I promise you it's not because of the weather. I hate the cold, but this time of year is when we show how amazing we are, and people who are in this city really understand why we call ourselves the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection.
Well, Jared, we've done a lot. We've done a lot on Make a Difference, and this hits because we're looking at a community hero. We've listened to a community hero. We're going to drop a pebble in the pond, and because of Isaiah Thomas, it's going to ripple out. And in a very humbling way, this has allowed us to give to our community. And I am eternally grateful for you, Isaiah. And I have to close what we close every guest segment with this question. Who's made a difference in your life, Isaiah?
That's a great question. And it's so many people I could list, but I'll give you two, just because of the space that I am. And we talked about the holidays of mourning. And I'll say first and foremost is my mother. My mother passed away last year. And this is only going to be my second Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday without my mom. And this was her favorite time of year, right? This is the time where she would cook big meals for the entire family, but she would always make me on Thanksgiving morning drive food over to Reverend Crawford's church in North Philadelphia, because they would feed a lot of people in that area. And that's something that I did every year since Reverend Crawford had his church, which is most of my adult life. And so nobody has inspired me more than my parents, but especially, and of course my father as well too, but especially my mother, who this was her favorite time of year, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And she would give so many gifts out to so many people. And then I also, from a political perspective, would say my political mom, Miss Isabel Fitzgerald. Miss Isabel is a former state rep, current ward leader. She's actually fighting cancer right now. So prior to this interview, I had just went to go see her, and we're going to be naming a street after her on December 15th up in the northwest section of the city of Philadelphia. So, you know, my biological mom and one of my political moms are two of the people who inspired me to be the person that you see here today. And one of the reasons I always talk about giving back is because that's how I raised, and I wouldn't be where I am today if people didn't give back to me. So I appreciate both of those women. They mean so, so much to me. And of course, Coach, thank you for allowing me to be on your platform. But more importantly, thank you to who you are and what you mean to the city of Philadelphia. You're a legend in itself. So many people have learned and are better because of you. And you don't even have to do this podcast. You could be somewhere in Florida retiring and enjoying good weather. But at the end of the day, you're using your platform and your resources to be able to provide an opportunity for the next generation. So thank you so much, Coach. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I'll close out by letting you know that you coach one of my favorite teams in the history of college basketball. And I'm not going to tell you which one, but just know that one of your teams was one of my favorite teams that I ever watched in the history of college basketball growing up here in the city of Philadelphia. So thank you all.
Thank you very much. And Isaiah, you and your family and your political family and the whole city, a blessed Thanksgiving. We wish for everybody safety and joy in the coming week and the coming months. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You have lifted us up with this segment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Isaiah, thank you so much, man.
Thank you all. Thank you for having me.
What else is there to say, man? I mean, whoa.
Good stuff.
We get.
I probably remiss in not asking him when he's running for mayor.
What the thing that I was fascinated by I just double checking. You get 24 hours in a day, right? That's like all I get. How many does he get? Because how does he
I
juggle
have it in my notes.
everything, man?
I have it in my notes. I thought, uh, this is cloning. This is a cloning experiment. Fabulous.
I will say,
Feel better about the city.
I just feel like he touched on a great thing there about people fixate on negative news and people, and I understand it. You know, it's an old, you know, I would say old saying in news is just if it bleeds, it leads, right? And unfortunately, a lot of times the worst news is the thing that has to come first because it's the most pertinent information that needs to get out there. But people do tend to go on social media and they doom scroll and they see things and they hear things, and all they can think about is if that's the only way you digest information about what is happening in the city of Philadelphia, you feel like it's doomsday. Unfortunately, and the reality of it is that things are getting better, and they continue to get better because of people like Isaiah Thomas, because he is looking out for the people of Philadelphia, and it makes me feel better about it at the end of the day, knowing that if he's looking out for everyone's best interest, people like that, then you know that positive change will come if everyone is willing to put the time in and invest their time and invest their abilities into making the Philadelphia area around them better.
And he also personifies why we started this idea. Right? It wasn't just to be a coach's clinic. It wasn't to do yuck it up. It was to make a difference. And those that see this episode of the podcast, they're going to be driven to make a difference in their communities, in their homes, and hopefully in this region.
I hope so. I mean, already seeing what he did. I mean, he delivered 1,000 Thanksgiving meals over the weekend. His office helped raise money and got people food, fed people over this time where people really need it. And you know what, of course, stuck with me, and it's funny that I feel like we ask everybody, you know, who's made a difference, who is kind of, you know, set the ball moving for you. We're getting a lot of moms,
Yeah, we sure are.
and I'm not surprised about it in the slightest. But it is so nice to hear when you have that motherly figure in your life. It really takes you places. And Isaiah said it. I mean, the most. I mean, the things his mother did, especially around the holidays, around this time of year, it's what made him the man he is today. And that's why you have a good, strong leader in an important spot in Philadelphia.
Great segment for sure.
With that being said, I will. I mean, you know, a lot of times these guest segments almost leave me speechless. I gotta reset. I gotta take a moment to
Go
breathe
ahead.
because I'm just like, what am I doing with my life when these people are just, you know, changing
Making
the
a
world?
difference.
Yeah,
You're making a
changing
difference.
the world.
Getting out the message.
I do feel like we do need to circle back though on this Thanksgiving theme. I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite Thanksgiving game? You know, you spent a lot of Thanksgivings on the road.
I had actually two events that popped into my mind. And I had to confirm this with Joey Brackett's Joe Lenardi. He told me that it was November of 2014. We played on Thanksgiving night against Western Kentucky in the famed Madison Square Garden. And I believe it was the renovated Madison Square Garden. There were not 300 people there.
Including
The teams. We played miserably. We lost to Western Kentucky that Thanksgiving. The other one that popped into my mind was when one of those games where you say, which of these is not like the others? We went to the Maui Invitational. So we were invited to the Maui Invitational basically on the backs of the teams that we had with Jameer and Delonte and Pat Carroll and John Bryan and guys, just terrific guys who were a great team. So later, we got invited to the Maui Classic. And we went out there. The first thing that pops in your mind is it is truly a community gym. To say it's a high school gym would be paying disrespect to all the high school gyms that you've been in and I've been in. It's a community center. They empty the crowds between games. That's why it seems so crowded when you watch the games on TV, which are this week. And we went out there and we played Texas and we played Indiana. and I can't remember who we played in our third game. And we were 1-2. And in talking to the other coaches, North Carolina was there, and all the other coaches were saying, well, when are you going home? What time do you play on the last day? We're going home right after the game. I had no idea that people were chartering flights. They were leaving Maui. And I thought, well, we're not ever coming back. So we'll stay an extra day. So on Thanksgiving, of having just played in the Maui Classic, which ends on Wednesday, we stayed for Thursday and gave the players free time to go the ocean, to the rock climbing, whatever they wanted to do. The only team activity that we had was a luau that night. So their Thanksgiving that year was at a luau, and I hope that it's a memory that they took with them, and not that they went away saying being 1-2. But when you say which of these does not fit the others, there it is. We spent Thanksgiving while other people flew home. We were in Thanksgiving getting ready for our connecting flight through San Francisco and then somewhere else. And then I think the following Monday or Tuesday, we played a game at Lehigh, and we struggled early. But people always told me the game coming back from Maui was always a challenge because you were tired.
Oh yeah, that flight back and everything.
Those are the two games that stick out to me.
I can't believe the other coaches, the other programs didn't make a week. I mean, you're in Hawaii, man. You got to take advantage of that, right? I'm glad you did. I'm sure the players thank you for it, because that's awesome. A Thanksgiving themed luau sounds pretty fun. I don't know. Did they have turkey?
I believe they did. I believe they did.
Well, with that, now you've kind of flipped the coin. Of course, you're doing lots of game prep still, but really from a different part of the sideline, right?
I will say everything that I'm doing, the prep has been the most exciting for me. Whether it's games, whether we prep for our podcast, prepping for my talks that I'm giving. But this will air on Wednesday. So this evening, I will be in Milwaukee for the nationally ranked Marquette game versus Stonehill. And how do you get there? So 3 days prior, I'm printing rosters. I'm printing statistics. I go to the College Bible, which is the Blue Ribbon magazine. I read the write-up, the preseason write-up about the team. I watch film of each team too. When I was scouting, I would watch 3. But if you think about it, I'm watching 2 films of each team. So I watch 4 games instead of 3 games of just one team.
You're scouting more than you were.
Right.
Yeah.
I attend practice. So I got to Milwaukee yesterday to watch both teams practice. I go to both teams shoot-arounds. I spend time either talking with the head coach, which is often, every time I've talked to the head coach. But then I talk to the scout coach. What are you looking for? I don't want to be putting things out that they don't want put out on TV. I write up a TV sheet with keynotes and players' numbers and key statistics for each player. Then I meet with the producer. I meet with the play-by-play coworker. It's just different in that I'm not as meticulous on, well, is that a UCLA cut? How did they trap the ball screen? I just make note that they trap the ball screen in a variety of ways, and I'll bring that out on the broadcast. The prep has been fascinating for me, and I'm not as tired as I was, because you have angst. When it's your scout in college, you have angst that I want to get this right. I want to get it perfectly right so that it gives us the best chance to win. Here, I want to get it right so that I honor the coach's work and most especially the players, because I know their families are listening. I want to make sure that I hit on pertinent facts about each of the individuals playing in the game. And I want to pay tribute to the referees when they do a really good job. And most of the time, they're really doing a great job right now. So that's where I've been and what I've been doing to get ready for this. I do want to, in this segment about where have I been, I want to give special mention of thanks to the Father Trainer Scholarship Luncheon in Wilmington, Delaware, for allowing me to make a difference. That's where this all started, with the idea of how can I get out in the community and talk with and for organizations, talk with and for schools, talk with and for school staffs, talk with and for corporate Delaware Valley, and make a difference. And that luncheon allowed me to do that. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. And anybody out there is interested, I'd love to connect to see if I could make a difference for your organization, your school, your company, any number of ways.
And the best way to do that is by heading to pnjmakeadifference.com. And that was really, as we mentioned, I think we touched on this quite a bit in our first episode, and I think it's something that it's worth bringing up and reminding, is just the whole hope and goal and plan of this is to really amplify what you hope to do. You want to really have boots on the ground and affect change by going places, by talking to people, by meeting with people, and like hoping to spread that influence of making a difference, rather than just sitting in the living room and yucking it up with me, because that's where you really get that, I would say, opportunity to actually truly make a difference, right?
And even if it's touch one person, if there's one way to do that, then that excites me. And when I sat April 30th and said it's time to go home, that was in my head. Let's go home and make a difference, and we're going to keep doing that. So after where was I? Now where am I?
Yeah, where are you headed now?
Well, I'm going to Cincinnati on Saturday for the Sunday Xavier South Carolina State game. And then I'll do planes, trains, and automobiles to get back. So if anybody's looking for me, like a fine Waldo, on Monday, December 2nd, I'll be sitting in the DAC at Drexel watching Bryant at Drexel in what I believe will be a terrific game, because I've seen both teams up close and personal. That's going to be a really fascinating game, and I'm anxious about that. But then I turn around on December the 3rd, and I take a train to Washington, D.C., to the Atlantic 10 offices, and we're working on a very, very special project that I believe will be announced between this broadcast and next week's foray into DC. But I'll be back in time. I'll be back in time for December the 4th. David Kelleher from David Dodge. Isaiah Thomas needs a clone. When you hear David Kelleher and what he's doing in the community during this Christmas season, you're going to shake your head and say, I have to do more. We are going to be joined next week, David Kelleher, from, I believe, the dealership.
On location.
And you know what we're
taking the show on the road
dealing
again.
with again? A difference maker. That excites me.
It's going to be an awesome one. Yeah, that's right. Next Wednesday, December 4th, we're going to be at David Dodge to talk to David Kelleher, the president and owner of David Auto Group. And he has a phenomenal a Christmas toy drive that he puts together through the holiday season, that we are excited to help him amplify that and get the word out about
just to
that.
drop a little nugget in there. Last year, 900 children in Chester, David Kelleher impacted with his drive. 900. He needs our help. That's why we're going there, to make a difference.
That's the plan. That's always been the plan and the goal. Another terrific one of the books, if I do say so myself. If you are looking to find us, you can find us at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. On X, we are Make a Diff Pod. You can head on over to Make a Difference with Phil Martelli on Facebook. You can find this show on YouTube. We are also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, every major podcast platform. Feel free to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening on your podcasts. If we again, continue. Our hope is to continue and continue and continue to make a difference. We have some unbelievable guests down the pipe. We're not going to spoil them all right now, but man, I mean, week to week, it's really kind of blowing us away here, and it's only going to get better from here on out.
Most importantly, though, happy Thanksgiving to you. Blessings to all of your wonderful family, your great dad, your brothers, your sister-in-laws, and to everybody out there. Stay safe, stay joyful. We need joy in this world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.